Welcome to the Manifestation Pod. We're Sam and Louise, two ordinary mums living extraordinary lives.
Every 2 weeks, we're diving into a new well-being, self-care or self-development topic that we've used to manifest a life of joy.
We want you to join us on this journey. We are all about building a community of people who are ready to do the same, manifest their best life, one step at a time.
So grab a cuppa, get comfy, and let's get started. Good morning. Welcome to the Manifestation Pod with me, Louise, and Sam Billingham. How are you, Sam?
Hi, I am good. Yeah, I'm really good. I've been for a lovely walk this morning and just really enjoyed all the autumn colours. It's beautiful at the moment, isn't it?
It really is. One of our trees in the garden I noticed this morning is a very bright shade of orange. So yeah, I also noticed the autumnal change in the air. I've been for a swim this morning, which is why I look like I do. So yeah, it's all good.
Nice. Check us out. Swimming, walking.
I know. Living our best life. Talking of which, we're going to talk about sobriety today, which is episode 3 of season 2, and the surprising benefits in my case. Is that what we're going to chat about, Sam?
Yes. An interesting subject, isn't it? Because, well, I mean, we'll go into most of the journey, but both of us have been pretty shy about talking about our sobriety in our day-to-day lives, haven't we?
Yeah, so I've really kept it under wraps. For a number of reasons, really. But yeah, we're out now, aren't we? We're out and proud on the pod, telling everyone about it.
Well, it's the only way, isn't it? Like, what we want to do with this pod is share what we're experiencing, and I'm bumping into more and more people that are talking about it as well. So yeah, let's dive in.
Cool. So do you want to go first? Because I think you actually started before me anyway, so that would seem a logical way of doing it.
Yeah, sure. So, me and alcohol. I guess, like, for the last few years, I've not really actually drunk all that much. And I think when I started to think about this topic today, I was thinking back to post-pandemic and how I kind of reframed a lot in my life then, which a lot of people did, really, didn't we? We had all that time to think. And one of the things for me was that before the pandemic, I used to go to the pub just to see certain friends that I knew would just go to the pub. I never really enjoyed going to a pub and drinking. I enjoyed going out for meals, but I was really just going there to make connections and see people. And yeah, which, pretty average, isn't it?
Yeah.
But post-pandemic, I was kind of like, well, I don't like pubs, so I'm not going there. And the things that I like doing are, walking, wellness stuff, going for coffees, going for meals. And yeah, I just kind of decided that, the people that I want to see will want to do those things as well. And the people that don't, then, our season has passed. So I think that kind of started me on this route. I still drank at home, like, enjoyed a glass of wine, love a bottle of Baileys at least at Christmas. Which is going to be interesting this year. So yeah, just sort of pootled along like that, really. And then earlier this year, had a really strange, interesting experience with alcohol. I think I got a bottle of wine as a present for Mother's Day, and slowly drank it. And then come April, I had like one bit of it left. And I had one glass of wine one night in April, and the next day had the worst experience ever. I woke up early, went out for a walk on my own, and got halfway across the park near the house, and just got like this awful stomach pain, and had to turn back. And then I got a headache, and I had to phone my husband to come and rescue me from the local park. It was like super embarrassing. Like, I was just really sick and then spent the rest of the day in bed. And maybe the wine was off. Who knows? It had been there a little while. But as I started to feel better, I had this like pain at the base of my spine. And, I'm into all my spiritual stuff. So I always look up like, what does a pain here mean? And when I looked it up, it said that it could be that the zeal chakra is opening and you're experiencing a spiritual awakening from the zeal chakra.
Oh,
That's an interesting one, and it's new on me. And so the more and more I sat with it, I just kind of felt that like what happened was just a sign, really, that I was done with alcohol. And I just felt like really calm and knowing that that was it. So yeah, that's kind of been it since April. And then like slowly worked into it. Like we were saying, I didn't really tell many people. I just sort of thought I'd see how I feel about it.
yeah.
Um, and then, because I don't go to pubs, there hadn't been that many interactions with alcohol, so it wasn't awkward. But then as the months have gone on, there's been kind of more and more things that have come up, like work events, where as soon as you finish, someone sticks a free glass of wine in your hand without even asking if you wanted one. And what else? And like a few family celebrations and things like that, where yeah, I've kind of been forced to say something to people, and it's just really interesting the kind of reactions you get.
Yeah.
I suppose you found this as well. Like most people are quite shocked. Most people are kind of look at you puzzled as if to say why. So I felt like I've had to explain why. Um, and then in depending on who's asking me, I guess I'm framing my answer a bit as well. But I have told a few people, I think it's a spiritual thing. I'm just done with it. Yeah. So that's me. So I'm like 6 months in now.
I was just going to say that's been 6 months then, hasn't it? If it was April.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my journey, if you want to call it that, is 67 days today of
Wow.
no alcohol. So mine's a little bit different. So I thought that I didn't want to drink and then kind of stopped drinking for a while. But then with certain friends, I associated them with drinking.
Mm.
And I do enjoy nights out with them where I have a drink. So I kind of got to the point where I thought, right, I don't want to drink, but actually I do want to drink in certain situations. So that's what I started doing. So
Mm.
I've stopped. I don't think I've drank in the house since I've lived in this house. So that's been, what, 18 months that I've lived here. Just don't drink in the house at all. So it's just mainly nights out. And they're pretty few and far between, to be fair. So I'm definitely not drinking a lot by any stretch of the imagination. But hangovers, dear God, I do suffer with hangovers. And it seems to be at the moment, it doesn't matter whether I have one drink or 50 drinks, the result is exactly the same the next day. I'm ill. I'm physically sick. I've got my head down the toilet most of the day. Once I start, I can't stop, and it wipes out a day, sometimes 2 days. And I've just got to the point where I think the night out is not worth that amount of illness the day after or the day after that. So there's that going on. So I kind of restrict what I drink as well. So I try and just have 4 drinks. But I've also found that restricting your drinking, oh my God, it's such an effort. It's just not easy. So I'm going out and I'm thinking, right, okay, I can't drink wine because that gives me a hangover. I can't drink beer because that kind of gives me a hangover. So what can I drink? Oh, I'll drink. I used to drink Jack Daniels and Coke, but then I was finding that because I was drinking very few and far between, when I go out, I'm drinking full on whiskey. So I
Mm.
get drunk really quickly because I'm not drinking from one month to the next. And then I'm going out and having maybe 8 Jack Daniels and I'm absolutely leathered. And I don't go out with the intention of getting drunk, but by its very nature, alcohol, you don't make sensible decisions while you're in the midst of drinking. So I'd start off going, I'm only having 4 drinks, but by the time I've had one, I feel drunk and I'm like, oh yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm having a great time. And the night takes over and we end up where we end up. And so that's made me think I want to stop. So I've kind of stopped drinking, but what I've found since I've stopped, there are surprising benefits that I'd not considered.
Mm.
So the last time I had a drink, I spent £65 on a night out, which really upset me because I don't want to spend that kind of money on alcohol. So there's the saving money, which is a benefit that we kind of expect.
Mm.
But the last time I went out, I went to, well, not the last time actually, the time before that, I went to a gig and my friends put money in my bank account because I drove to Manchester and we didn't have to get an Uber. So the next day, so I went out, I didn't spend a penny, and the next day I had like £30 in my bank account.
Wow.
My other friend paid for the parking, and I got drinks bought all night because obviously I wasn't drinking, so my drinks are therefore not that expensive. So that was, I don't know, it felt nice that I was so touched that my friends actually thought to give me money because they were grateful they got a lift. I was happy to give them a lift. I was driving anyway. It made sense to drive because I wasn't drinking. But what I've found since then, because I've got those kind of happy, everything we do in life kind of follows a pattern, doesn't it? We remember experiences and we remember what happened afterwards, and that becomes a kind of belief as to what will happen next time. And because that was such a positive experience of my first night out, not drinking, that positivity stayed with me to my next night out. And now I've just found, like, naturally, it's just easier to drive. I don't have to think about what the weather's going to be like, where I'm going to get a taxi to, how I'm picking people up, where I'm meeting people, how I'm going to get to that first meeting place where we're going to get a cab. All that hassle. What am I going to drink when I go out? What am I going to drink that I don't have a hangover? Am I going to stick to 4 drinks, or is alcohol going to get in the way and then I'm drunk and I want 10 drinks? Oh, that's gone. That's quite an effort for a night out. That's not good energy spent on thinking about all these individual things that make for a night out. It's just easy to go out and not drink and drive, stay dry, stay warm, pick everyone up, take everyone home. It's lovely. It's a really nice night.
That sounds lovely. No wonder it's making you feel really good, like all those benefits from it.
Yeah. And
Mm.
plus all the other things like your health and not having hangovers, but they've all become second. The other thing is, so I've wrote 3 things down that I found about sobriety. So that's one, like the surprising benefits that you don't think of. Number two is the connection. So not last week, the week before, I went to a gig, meeting friends at the pub, but
Mm.
one of them lives right near me. So I picked her up and we met our friends in the pub. However, we got there a little bit early. So we had a conversation in the car and we had a conversation in the pub, just me and her. So this person, I'll name, if she listens to this, she's called Caroline. Um, we've we've got a mutual friend. So me and Kelly are friends. We go to gigs and Caroline's Kelly's friend. And therefore me and Caroline have kind of become friends. But because there's a big group of us, other than just general chit chat, we've never really had a conversation. But last time we went out, because I drove and it was just me and her, we had a conversation in the car. And it took a turn because what did she tell me in the car? She didn't know I did a podcast, so I started talking about that. And then she tells me she's got a Moldavite necklace. I've never, ever, ever, like, I wouldn't have even expected her to have a Moldavite necklace. She doesn't come off as someone who's into crystals, but she
Mm.
really is. So we had this full on conversation for about an hour in the pub, like deep in conversation.
Yeah.
We had a conversation about like being single and dealing with stuff that happens in your house when things go wrong. We just had this full on connection that never, ever, ever would have happened. I've been going out with Caroline for probably 3 or 4 years now. I've known her. Never
Mm.
had a conversation with her other than what you're drinking, all the music's good, just your general chit chat when you go out.
Yeah.
But we had a full on conversation. It was so nice. And I felt like really connected to her. We've got so much in common.
Mm.
That just would not have happened had I been drinking and I mean, she was drinking, but this was early on. So she'd not obviously had a drink before she got in the car. And most of the conversation was around her first drink, and I was drinking a non alcohol drink.
Mm.
Yeah, it was just so that I'm finding connections with people. And I've got another friend, Claire, who me and her just drink together. That's all we do. So
Mm.
me and her went out for lunch and had a wander around John Lewis. And I had such a lovely time with her. And I felt really connected to her as well.
That's so lovely, isn't it? It's like something you wouldn't really expect to come out of it because, you're seeing those people anyway and connecting with them, but it just sounds like
Exactly.
it's completely changed the way you connect with
It has. It has, and for the better. So you always
them.
think, like, when you're drunk at the end of the night, and I'm such a hugger, I'm like, oh my God, I love you so much with all my friends. although I'm not doing that because I'm sober, I'm really feeling it. I'm really
Mm.
thinking, oh my God, I'm so glad me and you were friends. I love you so much. And that's a sober thought, and that's so nice. And it's so much deeper and meaningful than a drunken night out that we all, I don't know, I just think the more people I talk to about it, everyone thinks they love a drunken night out. But a lot of it is just because we've never tried it without.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of just the way we've grown up as how we connect with each other without
Absolutely.
any real thought about like whether you like it. A lot of the time, it's just
Absolutely.
something you sink into, isn't it?
You do, and we are in this culture of, wine o'clock and oh, I've got to have a drink after work and oh my God, I need a drink. We all talk like that all the time.
Yeah.
But actually, none of that is true. Drinking doesn't relax you. Drinking doesn't. It does give you confidence, but it's a fake confidence. So another thing I realised when I was out, I went to an Oasis gig. It wasn't the real Oasis. It was a cheap version, a cover band. And I found that it was really hard to dance. I'm not an indie girl, I'm a dance girl. And I found it really hard to dance. And therefore I felt really awkward all night. But I realised that had I been drunk, I would have absolutely danced because
Mm.
I'd just masked that awkwardness with alcohol
Yeah.
and therefore forgotten about it because at some point I'd have been falling all over the place and it wouldn't have made any difference. But
Mm.
yeah, it's definitely making me think more about the habits we form with alcohol
Yeah.
and that they're not conscious. A lot of
Mm.
conscious. And once you start that conscious thinking, and me and you talk about this a lot about conscious living,
Mm.
this sobriety really taps into that. It really does. And I've also realised through a lot of deep thinking, every single mistake I've ever made in my life, ever, has been alcohol related.
Isn't that interesting? I've been thinking about like relationships and friendships in regard to alcohol, and it really does make you think about it differently, doesn't it? And look back differently on it.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of knew that, every time I fucked up, there's been alcohol involved.
Hmm.
With relationships, with making, we don't make great decisions, do we? By the very nature, you're not designed to make decisions when you're three sheets to the wind, but we do. We make decisions all the time when we're drunk,
Mm.
and making decisions when you're hungover and feeling horrendous when you're hungover and having anxiety when you're hungover. We all laugh about this, but actually, it's really not nice. It's
No.
not. It's not pleasant to be in that state, and you're in that state longer than you're in that alcohol fueled happy state, which I think is only probably two drinks in. And anything beyond that's a bit of a waste. It just goes downhill, really.
Mm. Well, similar to you, I think my biggest benefit is like clarity of mind because I do so much work on like spiritual connection and keeping my nervous system like really settled and peaceful. And then to like mess that up really with alcohol, to like
Absolutely.
block that connection, to dull it, and then have days trying to get it back because I've had a glass of wine or whatever, just at this point in my life seems completely pointless.
And it's counterproductive to what you're trying to do with your life as
Mm.
well, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Like I need my imagination, I need my connection with nature to create things for the business, for my media business. And if I cut that off several days a week, then, you know, it's just not worth it. Really, really not worth it.
That's the thing, it isn't. And I
Mm.
defy anyone really, if they really think about it, to think of a time when they've had the best night ever.
Mm.
Because a lot of the time you can't remember. You feel like you've had the best night ever, but have you?
Mm. Yeah.
Have you really? Or is it just what you think you remember? And it's just very different doing it soberly. It sounds dead boring and it so isn't. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
No, fun.
It's the opposite of boring.
Yeah, fun's the wrong word actually. It isn't fun. It's just having that connection with your friends that just feels a little bit deeper when you're doing other things, when you're not distracted
Mm.
by alcohol. Because another thing is when you're out, oh my God, I'm distracted by everything when I'm out. I need the toilet, what, put my lip gloss on. I want to go for a wander, what, see who's there. Ooh, who's out in this bar? I want to walk around. I want to see what's going. I'm certainly not bonding with any of my friends. I'm all over the place.
Mm. Do you find yourself like less like that when you're not drinking?
I don't move when I'm not drinking. I'm with
Mm.
whoever I'm with, and I'm not moving really. I'm
Mm.
nothing like that. Because what I've also discovered is I'm two different people, drunk and sober.
Yeah.
Literally two different people. And
Mm.
like, yeah, just making mistakes. And life's what it is. I don't regret anything. We are where we are. I wouldn't be where I am today without the majority of the mistakes I've made. But it's just interesting that I don't think I've ever made a mistake soberly. I've never made a bad decision soberly, which which makes you realize that intuitive listening and living and
Mm.
following your gut does actually work.
Yeah. Yeah. All of which you just get cut off from when you're drinking and then recovering from having a drink as well, don't you?
Yeah. And if you do that enough, I mean, I don't and you don't, but if you do that enough, which I definitely used to years ago before I had Charlotte,
Mm.
if you're drinking every weekend and maybe one night in the week, you're either permanently drunk or you're in a state of drunk and then hungover and then
Yeah.
drunk again. And
Yeah.
I've definitely had periods where I've partied far too hard and I've just not been the mid 2000s. I pretty much wasn't around for most of it because I was just out constantly. And
Mm.
that does have an impact on how you are
Yeah.
during the week.
Absolutely, 100%. It's made me think about like sobriety in other areas of my life as well. Like, because I think of the power of, if I'm able to say, like, in a moment, that's it, and just be done with it, then what other areas could I do that in as well? Like food and things is a big area for me that I'd just love to be able to say that, like, I've got like a purity or sobriety within the food that I eat as well, eating
Yeah,
healthier and more organically and less toxins as much as possible. I mean, that feels like a really difficult thing to do, but a few years ago, complete sobriety from alcohol would have felt like a difficult thing as well. So who knows?
absolutely. And I think once you get into that world, so I pretty much do clean eating apart from blips, but in the main, 80% of my food is clean. It's not processed. But
Mm.
and again, we're always on the same wavelength, me and you, but I've also thought about where can I tap into other areas of my life. And mine's sugar. I've
Mm.
got such a sugar addiction. And I know that if I just stopped, it would go eventually because sugar definitely, once you stop doing it, you stop craving it because you lose the taste for it. And I think in the new year, that's definitely something that I'm going to work on because, again, it's a little bit like binge drinking. I
Mm.
go all week and I don't want to say good because I don't want to talk about food being good or bad, but I'm really healthy. I eat really healthily and I feel great. Like physically, I feel so good at the moment. But
Mm.
then sometimes on the weekend or just when my hormones dictate, I'm shoveling chocolate in my mouth. And even when I'm doing it, one, I'm thinking I'm not even enjoying it. And two, I'm eating all this good stuff and then I'm just ruining it by putting a lot of crap in my mouth. And I feel awful afterwards.
Yeah.
And I really need to stop that. So I need to apply the same thing because I think when I first stopped drinking, I felt a bit deprived. This time is completely different. I've not even said I've stopped drinking. I just keep saying I'm seeing how it goes. And
Mm.
right now, I'm perfectly happy with it. And interestingly, most people like drinking in the summer and on holiday. I don't. I'm a winter drinker. I think, oh, mulled wine in winter, red wine in winter. When it's cold and you're kind of in front of the TV, that's when I would really like emotively drink and think
Mm.
about feelings of snuggling up in front of the TV with a glass of red wine.
Yeah.
So I think if I can get through winter, summer's going to be a doddle, really.
Mm, yeah, absolutely. And I guess it's thinking about different things to have, like, they have mulled wine tea kind of vibe as well, don't they? Getting stuff like that to kind of replace it.
Yes, absolutely. And I've been drinking non-alcoholic drinks. But listen to this for ironic and annoying. When I
Mm.
went to the Oasis gig, I was drinking no alcoholic Peroni. So I
Mm.
used to drink Peroni before I had Charlotte, and then I lost the taste for it. But anyway, I was drinking this. Guess what happened the next day?
What?
I had a hangover. I was sick all day.
Oh,
So I think there's something in beer and wine that doesn't agree with me. My mum thinks
yeah.
it's yeast. But yeah, so that was an interesting experience, having a hangover with no alcohol.
That's just so annoying, isn't it?
It was really annoying. Yeah, very annoying, but it is what it is. The one thing that I found I can drink is cider, no alcoholic cider, and I quite like that when I'm out, but I only have two of them because I'm finding as well a lot of the drinks I'm drinking with no alcohol. If anyone's got any tips around this, please get in contact with me. They're very sugary and I get toothache when I get home.
Yeah, that's no good, is it? It's no
No,
good at all.
it's
Are
not
you
good.
tracking how many days you've been sober or anything out of interest?
Yes, so I've got an app.
Mm.
So yeah, I'm tracking it on
Yeah,
there.
me too. So I'm just looking at mine. I've got the I Am Sober app, and you can track how much money you've saved. So I put in there that I spent on average, I don't know, £10 a week is what I put in there. So it said I have saved £272. So
Wow.
I know.
I mean, that's a lot. That
Yeah.
seems kind of more than expected from you because I know you didn't drink a lot.
Mm,
Um, yeah, I mean, I think mine would be more just because I tend to, binge drink still because that's how I grew up, binge drinking. That's what we did in my age group. So I still do that. So mine wouldn't even be weekly. Mine would probably be twice a month, but £65. So yeah, that'd add up, wouldn't it?
yeah, you should have look at that because that'll it's always a motivator, isn't it? How much you've
Yeah.
saved. You can also estimate how much time you've spent drinking, and so how much time
Oh,
you've saved. So I've just estimated 2 hours per week for that, and that's come out at I've saved 54 hours of time.
that's amazing. You see, mine would be a lot higher because I do have, like, I write off the next day. And that's something else that's annoying. Weekends are precious. And I always have this internal battle when I had a night out of, oh my God, I've got a night out, so I know I'm going to be rough tomorrow. I mean, what an attitude to go out with, kind of dreading the following day.
Yeah.
And build up to that all week, I'd be thinking, oh my God, yeah, I'm going out great, but the next day is going to be horrific. And that kind of quashes any element of excitement about going out. It really is a double-edged sword for me. So yeah, I'm feeling really like good not drinking. It's making me feel I'm achieving something far more than I thought it would.
I know it's really interesting, isn't it? Kind of the
Yeah.
further you go along with it, and the more kind of events that you do or things that you interact with that you've not done since you started not drinking, and just sort of, I don't know, it's kind of I treat it with curiosity in a way.
Me
Like,
too. Yeah,
what's
absolutely.
this going to be like without drinking?
Yeah, I do too. And I've had quite a few events. So I've had 3 gigs, a holiday, a weekend away. Yeah. And I've not drank for any of them. And I've been absolutely fine.
Mm,
More than fine.
yeah, I think Christmas will be interesting. Like even God, my kids keep saying to me, "Yeah, to come to us at Christmas, Mum. We know that you'll be drinking then," and I'm like, "No, I don't think so." So
Yeah.
I don't feel like I will, but then I also don't feel under any pressure to not at the same time because I just don't feel like I will, and I don't want to. So I'm just going to see how it goes. Get some.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. I also like a Baileys at Christmas, but I think the benefits for me are definitely outweighing any negatives. So the other thing with drinking in the house, and this is why I don't do it, is as soon as I have one or two drinks, I feel drunk. And no matter what I'm doing, if I'm watching a film, reading a book, doing something in the house, it all stops when I drink. And then I go on my phone, I start scrolling, and I end up doing nothing all night. And then eventually I fall asleep, and it's such a waste of a night. I have this idea about drinking in the house with the fire on and watching a nice film. And you see it. This is the image that's presented to us by media, by films, that's what drinking's like in the house. But the reality for me is something completely different. I start getting a bit giddy. I'm ringing people, I'm ringing my friends, I'm on my phone, I'm scrolling, I'm not doing anything good.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of a little bit tipsy, wasting my night almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I start thinking about what that means, it isn't being cozy with the Baileys under a blanket watching a nice Christmas film. It's
Mm.
being bored and distracted and bored. And I don't know. I just don't like drinking in the house at all. It does absolutely nothing for me.
And the thing is, when you're not drinking, you can just be so much more intentional and aware of that. You can be sat there and be like, do you know what? I'm really bored. I'm going to go and do X. Instead of just like drifting into it because you're drinking and it just
Exactly. But the thing is, the irony is, if I wasn't drinking, I wouldn't be bored because I'd be engrossed in what I was doing, which might be a book or a film.
Yeah.
Drinking distracts me from, I have no, I'm sure it's the same for everyone. I have no concentration. So whatever I'm doing just it stops. It doesn't seem as fun once I've had a drink, or just, no, not fun. I keep saying fun. I don't mean fun. It's just not as enjoyable.
Mm.
Whereas actually curled up under a blanket in a really warm room with the heating on and the fire glowing, watching a Christmas film, if I'm in on my own,
Yeah.
that's lovely. That's such a lovely night.
It is. It really is.
And having maybe a hot chocolate instead, or having, something that feels indulgent. Because I think that's what it is. We're searching for that feeling of comfort and indulgence, so we can get that from so many things other than alcohol.
Yeah, exactly. There's so much more you can enjoy apart from that, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's so bizarre, really, when you think about how we've grown up with alcohol in this way. It really makes you kind of question the whole culture around it all. And
Oh, it's not healthy at all. I think everyone in the UK knows that because I think we're all much of a muchness. There is a lot of,
mm,
you can't get through life without a drink. You can't get through Friday without a drink. It's
mm,
absolutely fine to go out and drink until you're sick. All that is banter and encouraged
yeah,
and normalized.
I know it is bizarre when you think about it, really. Now,
Yeah. And
looking,
I do think as well, maybe it's an age thing as well, because I wouldn't have even been interested in trying in my 20s, but I think there are certain times where I'm not saying it's good, but it's kind of what everyone's doing and it's an almost rite of passage.
yeah,
So it wouldn't have occurred to me to not do it in my 20s.
mm,
But I think the kids, though, are going full circle. I work with a lot of 20-year-olds and they're not drinking in the way that I used to drink at all. They have a completely different lifestyle.
yeah. Well, that's good then. It's changing clearly.
Absolutely. So there's hope for kind of our kids
Yeah.
because I don't want Charlotte ever drinking the way I drank when I was,
Mhm.
18 upwards.
Yeah, no, absolutely the same with my kids for sure. For sure. Yeah. So if you're listening and you're on a sober journey or thinking about it, share it with us. I'd love to hear from other people because I've been surprised actually. Like the first few interactions I talked with new people about it, they were just like, oh, right, okay, and made me feel a bit weird. But then the more I've talked about it, the more people I've found who are also doing it in secret and on that path too. So it'd be lovely to connect with more people that are doing it or thinking about it.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, lovely. I feel all warm and cozy after that. That was
I
very nice.
know, me too, me too. Awesome. So yeah, let us know how you're getting on with it or what your thoughts are on sobriety. And we shall see you in a few weeks' time. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for joining us today on the Manifestation Pod. We hope you feel inspired to start creating the life that you've been dreaming of.
Remember, we're all in this together and we'd love for you to be part of our community. So don't forget to subscribe, share, and connect with us on socials.
We're here every 2 weeks, so catch us next time with more tips and tools to help you manifest the life you deserve.
Until then, keep believing, keep manifesting, and keep living that extraordinary life. Bye.
Bye.